Figure AI, a humanoid robot company, has officially announced they raised $675 million and are now valued at $2.6 billion. What's most exciting is that Figure has signed a collaboration agreement with OpenAI to develop next-generation AI models. This partnership will accelerate Figure's commercial timeline, but even more importantly, giving their humanoid robots the ability to understand both spoken and written language and to take action. Last month, Figure showed off their bot being able to operate a Keurig coffee machine autonomously. The pace of improvement is staggering, and the list of investors and partners is also very impressive and shocking. Today, we're joined by Dr. Scott Walter. He's a two-time robotics company founder. Welcome, Scott. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, welcome, Herbert. And I guess we can say that today, Figure took a leap forward. Today being Leap Day, with the announcement of this new infusion. I think it's the Series B funding. It's not quite $1 billion, but still close enough. It's a good amount of money to be able to stay in operation for probably quite a while, to the point that maybe even be able to start generating money by the time they run out of that. And I guess the other thing to say is that the month is almost over, so it won't be last month anymore. We're getting ready to go into March. We've already seen a lot of activity. That's been quite interesting. And there wasn't a whole lot of surprise about this announcement because Bloomberg leaked this exactly a week ago, right? I think on Thursday, a week ago. And today, Figure basically confirmed some of the aspects of that article, but not all of them. So some of the investors that are in there. So we know that, that actually has been consummated, this deal. And but I think we get a little bit more detail from Figure about the arrangement that they're having with Microsoft and OpenAI, because that was like one of the missing pieces. Everyone's wondering, okay, you've got a team there that's building this bot, but what about the training? How are you doing the training? Where's your compute? Where are you getting access to it? And it's pretty clear. They've got some sort of agreement set up with them. It looks like it's maybe some sort of technology partnership. I didn't read it, terribly closely to kind of find out. But you can take a look at it to understand.
Let's talk more specifically about the OpenAI partnership and what that can deliver. We're going to show some videos of Figure that they just dropped last week, where the bot is now able to manage and carry totes, and then they can do that autonomously. Of course, there's the coffee machine operation as well. Let's review first the announcements, and then we'll compare Figure to where Tesla bot is. So you've got, Figure dropping this today. They raised $675 million at $2.6 billion. And OpenAI and Figure signed a collaboration agreement to develop the next generation AI models.
Yeah, and just
partnership.
Yeah, just one point. If you remember, Bloomberg had already had a leak back, I think, in January, where they were talking about Microsoft and OpenAI were going to be the lead investors in a $500 million round. And as you can see, it looks like it's oversubscribed. So I just wanted to point that out, that we had heard last week that it was 675, but now it's confirmation that it really was exceeding that amount.
Yeah. The excitement is amazing, but it's the partnership that is even more amazing. Nvidia, OpenAI, and there's more here. So we'll go through this together. We'll find out as we figure it out. But here's the whole list of partners here. It's Nvidia, Jeff Bezos himself, through Bezos Expeditions. I think we're speculating that Bezos needs to have robots for his space missions that he's working on. And you've got Intel, Aligned Ventures. So this OpenAI partnership, it's going to accelerate the commercial timeline, the ability for them to develop these things faster, because the hardware and the AI and intelligence need to happen sooner. But its ability for the bots to process and reason from language, we'll talk about that. The timeline for commercial development is going to ramp up because the money that they just raised, which is significant, AI training, manufacturing, deploying more robots, expanding engineering headcount, advancing commercial deployment efforts. So I'm going to go ahead and play some of the videos. Tell me more about how you think that the OpenAI has already helped them and how it's going to help them in the near future.
Well, it looks like they've probably already started to put in the open language model so that they would be able to give commands that we've seen before and what it's supposed to do. And certainly having access to the computer allows them to do this end-to-end development. So they are training it through what seems to be a lot of demonstration learning, but there's probably going to have to also be some reinforcement learning in there as they try to improve the algorithms to make it, let's say, more robust. And yeah, I mean, it's like you're getting the premier company out there as far as development in AI. ChatGPT has been able to do quite a bit. They're getting ready to move away from not just large language models, but also the visual learning models. And of course, Sam Altman has talked about OpenAI wanting to be moving more and more into embodied AI. And this is a logical step forward for them to be able to do that.
Yeah. So this is an example of the training you said, right?
Mhm.
Was pretty cool, where they just show them videos and then they're learning from the
Yes,
videos.
right.
Is OpenAI helping with that part of it, or is it more just the language, being able to tell it what to do, being able to understand the world,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm. Yeah, we'd have to take a look at exactly the details that they released in there. It seems like there's going to be some licensing agreements for the technology, and I'm sure they're going to get access to a lot of the engineering talent they have there to be able to start working on these things. And that there's a lot of work heading in that area of being able to do more than just language tokens, producing spoken word being turned into language and generating text from that. We also know that you can just with a text prompt generate art. So it's with Dolly and also with Midjourney and others, we're able to do that. And Jensen Wong pretty much said the other day that the next step he doesn't see, if we can do those two things, why can't we do language to create motion? And that sort of is where we're getting very close here. Is with enough training data, these neural nets are going to understand the concept of motion. They're going to get an idea of the physics that's going on in the environment. And remember, Nvidia is also on there, so Nvidia has also got a development platform for robotics that is going to help with the understanding of the physical world, which is going to
Mhm.
be done through simulations to be able to get kind of the iterations that you need in your training sets. And then there's no reason why, if you can get enough of that data in there, just with a couple of text prompts, it will start to generate motion for you, which would be very nice. The other thing is you're probably going to see a lot of cross training. There was an interesting post thread from James Dama that he was responding to someone about the fact that um, if you do specific training, you're probably not going to make as much progress you think versus just doing generalized training. So you want to expose the bot to a
Mhm.
variety of different tasks because it will then learn how to be better at another task from something it learned somewhere else that you may have thought is not important. So
Mhm.
his feeling is that you first get the general and then you can go to the specifics. It's a lot like
Interesting.
doctors. I mean, doctors are brain surgeons, but they start out getting kind of the general education. Same with like, you know, an eye doctor. It's they learn they specialize later on people's vision, but they get a lot of experience doing something else, even if they'll never be doing an appendectomy or anything like that on someone. So you need to get that kind of that generalist background at first before you can start to get the specialization. And I just responded to James and said, wait a minute, you telling me AI needs to do CrossFit training? And I think we all understand the concept from an athlete that, and he was like, yes, exactly like humans. So if you want to excel in a particular area of
Mhm.
athletics, you also do a lot of training in other areas to get those muscle groups, to get the coordination, to get these hints and these ideas of how, oh,
Yeah.
maybe I take something from over there. So I think you're going to start seeing that more and more that's going to be going on. The need for being able to do broader kinds of tasks. And then with that, you will probably see the greater improvements in the speed, the dexterity, everything else on doing what seems to be a very specific, very low level, simple task.
Yeah. I mean, Tesla and Elon Musk specifically has been talking quite a bit about the fact that in order for you to have an AI to drive a car,
Hmm.
or have their Tesla bot, which I'll show a video here as people are aware of the Tesla bot, that it really is this ability for real world AI, right? Which is the
Hmm.
bot is existing in the world. It needs to be able to see, it needs to understand what it is, and then it needs to move. And so what you're saying is that OpenAI and the AI efforts is to, just like they can do now, which is string together words
Hmm.
to create intelligent concepts. They need to, or videos, they now
Yep.
need to be able to string together movement.
Yes.
One of the things you kept talking about is like, here's the ability to, it's the ability to turn. You kept saying about that, right? So when we watched
Hmm.
this video, you're saying that what's more importantly is how it turns. And here, like,
Okay.
let me just
Yeah.
go and fast
So
forward to
I mean,
here,
yep.
pivoting. So
So
it's
getting
grab the
to its
box.
yep,
Yeah,
getting to
it's
his
easy.
location quicker, getting that, and
Yeah.
now it's got to move around. And you see,
This part right here.
it's a lot of steps, and
Yeah.
we know we can do that in one step. I mean,
Yeah.
you just like you don't even have to see what the feet are doing. You can already imagine what you would do with your feet. You just
Yeah.
back one foot off, pivot on it, and then take a couple steps forward. You
Yeah.
also would probably approach a bit more quickly and not be so slow right there. It's like okay, but that might just be getting the balance right and a few other things. So those are all things that will be smoothed out pretty much with the AI. It's not like it's a hardware problem there. It's not that you don't have enough motor torques or anything else, or the control system isn't responding very well. It's more or less you're going to get that improvement through improvements in the software itself, as opposed to having to change anything. Of course, they're going to learn a lot from it to see what do they have to do to optimize the robot chassis itself going forward. What do they need to have bigger motors, smaller motors? What would be the best way to do that? So yeah, we are going to. It's a pretty important announcement today, and I think the other things we have to remember are the things that were not confirmed, and
Mhm.
the Bloomberg leak of about a week ago. And that we see that there's confirmation that Jeff Bezos is an investor, but there's no confirmation that Amazon is an investor in there. When I looked in that list, so there were a few other names on there, but I did not see that, and a few others that were missing. As a matter of fact, ironically, there I think you just had what was um, the someone from ARC was on there. Was that also Brett Winton? I think. And
Yes.
ARC is not on that list either, even though they were in the Bloomberg article. And I have not been able to find any confirmation of that. I put a post out there asking for comment from anyone that was like named in that article, and no, they haven't. So we'll find out over time. I'm sure eventually we'll see who all the investors are, and it could be more than that. But certainly Jeff Bezos being in there gives us a big hint that that Amazon is probably involved in one way or another.
Why don't we talk about the partnership with Microsoft as well? That's a big
Hmm.
one. So they're gonna have the ability to access Microsoft's Azure for AI infrastructure, training, and storage. So
Hmm.
the partnership between OpenAI and Microsoft really is what they need. And Nvidia, right? So Nvidia gives them
Hmm.
the chips to create these data warehouses. They've got the data warehouses through Microsoft, and then you've got the OpenAI intelligence. And then it sounds like when they talked about it, that figure it's going to be collaboration. So
Hmm.
this means that they probably have some obviously ownership of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So there's probably going to be some cross licensing going on there, something like that. So it may be that they still have to pay a fee or royalty to those organizations. And it seems to me it might be even more of an investment. There seems to be a lot of almost like investment in kind there by making those things available to them, those resources, and probably also making them available with a certain set of priority. So that kind of settles the issue as far as where they're going to get the training, how they're going to be able to get the access to the chips that they're going to need, everything else. And it could even come down to that. I would not be surprised if eventually Nvidia starts developing chips, inference chips specifically for embodied AI. So you can use the chips they have right now, of course, but they may not be ideal for that particular application. And they may learn a lot from this, and eventually you'll see a new form coming out that I don't know if it's probably not going to be figure exclusively. It could be also something that could be used in a lot of the other different robot bodies that are out there. But it will be up to each of the humanoid bot vendors to probably do that training. I don't know if it's possible. Eventually, someone will be able to come up with some sort of trained neural nets that they would then also be able to license out, and then all people have to do is come up with their own robotic body for it to go into.
Yeah. So what I understand is that the chips that Nvidia makes for the training compute needs to be
Mhm.
very powerful, needs to be
Yes.
tremendous amount of energy taken data warehouse. But then the inference compute, which is resides in the end product, whether it's a car or in this case it's a bot, needs to be very low latency,
Hmm.
low level actions. Here's
Yeah.
here's what Figure said that when they demonstrated the coffee making, it was first of all autonomous. So
Yes.
now they were able to prove end-to-end neural net, which means that the bot by itself, watching a human do it, figured out itself all the movements it needs to make
Hmm.
to replicate that action autonomously, just doing it by itself. This is fully learned, end-to-end visual motor policy. This is the part I wanted to ask you. Mapping onboard images to low-level actions at 200 hertz. So you need something that just takes very small amount of power so that it doesn't use up the batteries, right?
Right, right, and that's really quite fast. So they're really looking at the data very quickly now. That might be the low level. So you're going to have sort of different levels as you go up. So at the lowest level, the core, because remember you get like some of a full stack going on up there. that is probably going through and processing the images at that speed. And then it's going to be slightly slower speed. It may go up to the planner. And at some point, you get the execution. And the execution might be like 10 hertz or 20 hertz or something like that, is sort of deciding on the movement policy and when to check on the control system. But it means at very low levels, they are getting a very quick response and latency to be able to interpret what's going on in the world. But it may still be a little bit longer before the bot is able to fully respond to that. It's pretty common. A lot of robot controllers, industrial robot controllers, they may at a very low level be running at very high hertz rates, but the actual sort of refresh rate, if you want to think of it for the arm, very much like with the CRT, is closer to like 100 hertz or sometimes a little bit slower than that.
Can you explain to people? I know we've done this in several videos, all the different ways that you can train a robot to do end-to-end neural network AI, autonomously. And then how does, Tesla's AI team, or in this case, OpenAI, and combined with Figure's AI team, what are they working on to be able to do this training?
Okay, so the training is a combination of simulation. So we've seen a lot of these papers in the past several years of how these robotic or how these AI agents have learned to play hide and seek and other kinds of games. And that's being done through millions and millions of iterations of these virtual characters that live in a virtual world with simulated physics. It's not like real world physics. And with that, you can get pretty close to the kind of neural net you would need to be able to solve that problem with real world embodiment. But it's not going to be perfect because the physics is not quite perfect in there. And so then you have to go to using it in the real world where you have to get it and actually have it do the actions and see if it does it itself and keep on repeating and repeating and then learning from all the different mistakes and trying to change that. And the other possibility is to go in and using telerobotic control. So you would go and then start training a lot of these actions telerobotically. The thing is that it's really hard to get a large training set telerobotically because you need a lot of telerobotic operators and it takes a lot of time to do a lot of these tasks. Whereas when you're doing it in simulation, you can do it really quick. It's just you get more compute and that's it. So so those are some of the steps. And now what they would like to do is move away from just doing it telerobotically and have it more as demonstration learning, that you would have the bot or another camera system, whatever, observe a human doing a particular task and then figure out how to take that task and teach the bot those movements. And it's been done by Google and others, and they've actually done it just by using YouTube videos of training enough to get these visual learning models set up that the bots are able to sort of figure out what is the task they need to do, and they're able to then generate the joint values that they need to go ahead and complete a different task. So that's sort of the idea of being able to generate motion based on some sort of text. And it's already been demonstrated that this can be done. It's just a question of being able to scale it up and doing more complex kind of motions.
Okay, let's go look at TeslaBot and how they're doing the block sorting. Tell
Mhm.
me how you think that, how much progress has Tesla made in their AI and neural networks, and from what you understand. I'll play this and you can speak over it.
Yeah, so the movement we've seen here, of course, is quite nice. And this is showing the dexterity and the capabilities they have. And I believe this may have actually been autonomously done. So we can see that there's very smooth movement and certainly on the walking. Now, the impression we had is that I think when this came out, it was said that everything was at end to end except for the walking. So like from
Mhm.
the torso up was end to end, but the walking was still using a heuristic policy, and that looks like it's probably changed recently. So this is let's see, when was this video? Back in that was back in December. I'm trying to remember. It's been quite a while, so there's been a lot of progress
Mhm.
since then. So that's
Yeah,
when we
this is
first
December.
saw exactly what this new
Mhm.
configuration looks like. We could see the walking, and then when we saw another update a couple of weeks ago without the armor, it didn't seem to be walking quite as fast or about the same speed. And I think you commented, it's like, well, maybe it's because they switched from that heuristic code to now
Yeah.
having the full neural net policy and then having that integrated in with the whole body. So now that the sway and everything else, the movement of the body is
Yeah.
helping the walking and the planning. And then the video we saw, was it last week now?
Yeah.
It seemed like a month ago, but the last Friday we got to see an update on that, and it's definitely walking a lot faster. And with that update, we were able to get the actual speed of the movement, which we know is now zero point 0.6 meters per second. And yeah, that definitely looks more confident than before. Another thing that looks a lot better about this is the bot is not just walking straight. So you see right here, it decides to turn to the left and then eventually it's going to come back to the right. and it's literally kind of walking circles around this competition right now. And that's a very important step. They're definitely making lots of strides, and it's a big leap forward. And I'll stop all the bad jokes if you don't mind.
Love it, love it, love it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and so what you're thinking about the progress of Tesla's AI neural network? I mean, they
I think
have.
that they're moving. Yeah, they're also moving ahead at light speed here.
I mean,
That
they've got all the cars, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Elon
And
calls the cars, 5.5 million robots already out.
yeah, I have a feeling there's probably a lot of things that they're not telling us or not showing us yet. There have been a couple of hints, and the first hint came in I think about 2 weeks ago. Is that when Sora came out? I mean, when was Sora? Was it last week or the week before?
Yeah.
It's all becoming a blur. And
Yes.
Elon had kind of commented on that they could have done the similar thing
Mhm.
also with their training, but it was like they didn't have the compute to be able to do something like that because the images they want to create, and this was a result of speculation from John Gibbs that when he had listened to one of the papers that one of the AI researchers had given, he suspected that, well, wait a minute, what they're doing is they're taking the camera input, they're seeing what's going on right now as they're driving, and they're creating a video
Yeah.
recreation of what the next 10 seconds should look like.
Hmm.
And it was stunning because it like really looked like they actually were driving it. So what they're doing is they're saying, this is what I expect to see. And then if I'm not seeing that, then that means there's something wrong, what's going on. I have to take action. So that's how the version 12 is working, is it's doing like what we do. We drive down the road, we imagine what the next couple of seconds should look like, how it's going to evolve. And if it doesn't evolve that way, then we know we have to do something else. So it seems like Tesla already had the capability to do something like Sora, but they just didn't have the compute yet. According to Elon, he's kind of left it that way, and they may be able to do it. But the other thing he said is that from that, it was able to understand physics. So in order to do it, it had to understand physics. And the physics we're talking about is not Newton's laws, F equals ma, but an innate understanding of things such as persistence of objects. So when an object gets hidden behind something, you expect it's going to show up after a while. And there's a couple of ways that the current system is doing it. Is they were doing a lot of things with kinematics. They'd see someone riding a bicycle, and they try to predict, oh, that's a bicycle, it's going at this speed, and the bicycle should be here at a certain amount of time. And they would calculate it. That'd be a heuristic calculation. But a lot of times when we were driving, we're not sitting there saying, how fast is that bike going and how many seconds is it going to be here? We just have this sense that it's moving at a particular rate that it may or may not be a hazard for us. Or if it's gone behind something, I expect it should have popped out right now. And then we'll say, well, if it hasn't popped out, then maybe the cyclist has stopped or they've gone in a different direction. So we'll make some inferences from that. And that means these systems are going to be able to do the same thing. They're going to be able to understand physics. They'll understand gravity and how things fall. They won't understand exactly what the acceleration rate of gravity is, anything like that, the way we do as engineers and scientists, but they will understand how the world is supposed to function and operate, like I say, in a very intuitive sense. And I think I've used this example before, is that, when we throw a ball, physicists just using Newton's laws of motions can calculate the trajectory that ball is going to go. It goes on a ballistic trajectory, something I know a little bit about, and how to catch it. But when we're playing catch with a friend, they're not calculating that way where the ball's going to go. They just kind of know because they've had enough practice. They know looking at it where it's going to go over there, and they kind of run over. And that's the same thing, is it's learning the physics that way. But if you actually ask it, it's like, how fast is that ball going? It'll probably be like Grok and give you like this kind of a weird answer. It'll be like, sort of. Because when I throw the ball, do you have any idea? Am I throwing it? You might know, oh, it's not more than 100 miles per hour, because I know that the pitchers in the major league, very few of them can pitch that fast. So whatever I'm throwing to, it's going to be less than that. And you're not sure, well, is it 20? Is it 30? Is it 50? What's my fastball? You have no idea, but you just know where to be, right?
I don't know
Yeah.
what it is. Yeah, but I could see it as
Yeah.
even as
You can
within a
see it.
microsecond
You
of
can
you
see it.
letting go. I already know. Oh, that's a faster one or a faster.
Yeah,
Okay,
well, it's
get my catch.
yeah.
So
That's what you know.
the whole point, though, what you're saying is that Tesla has this real world vision AI that actually knows the physics of
Mhm,
how things move
mhm.
versus OpenAI. Despite that Figure partner with OpenAI, OpenAI does not have this. They have videos of YouTube and other videos they fed it. And then I think Elon has said that they won't know the physics the way that they think that they might think they know it, but
Right,
they won't
right.
know it. And
Yeah.
that could be the difference between the two bots here.
Yes.
Maybe. So
Maybe, maybe. Yeah.
you can
Mhm.
train, here's the example of training, the Figure bot to go up and pick up the tote and move it. But if that tote fell, probably he'll notice that it fell and it's on the ground. Now he'll go pick it up again. But
Hmm.
maybe a Tesla bot might be able to like catch it as it's
That's possible.
falling.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Depending on what your training set is and what's going on, that you have to get the feeling of what's going on. That we know when we pick up the tote, we already get a sense of what our body is going to have to do to balance. And
Yeah.
if it's a light tote or a heavy tote, we kind of make that calculation pretty quickly as well.
But this
And
is
so they're going to
why
have to
they
do it.
need to now they've got the OpenAI as a way to train it,
Mhm.
but now you need to have real world. You need to create,
Yes.
like you and I've been saying, at some point they'll need to create 100 and 500 bots, and all of them doing, like you said at the beginning of the show, lots of different general movements, picking up things, different weights, and then they will learn
Mhm.
what real world is. That's
Yes,
the only
yes,
way to do
exactly,
this.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So you can get a little bit of that in your in training, and or sorry, in simulation, but you won't get the precise motor actions. You won't really understand um, things like friction. You have an idea, but real world friction is a little bit different. So that's going to be what they need to be able to really fine tune these models. So and that will help to have as many copies of these bots as possible. And before you make the copies, and this is really a question we had all along, is why aren't there more bots? And I think Suzanne
Yeah.
Gilder kind of answered that question for us. She says that you need to sort of iterate a little bit to make sure that the form that you have is the correct one
Mhm.
before you go forward. Otherwise, you're going to be wasting a lot of time trying to perfect something which is not quite the right embodiment that you want to have. How many
Yeah.
joints do you need to have? How many sensors do you need to have? All of that. So they're all working on that. Probably, also a little bit afraid that we don't want to have 1,000 bots and turn out that they're just going to sit in the warehouse and have to be, modified or
Mhm.
coming up with something new.
When you and I interviewed Brett Adcock, who I've been showing the
Mm.
CEO figure, he said that he believes that they're going to lock down the design. Well, I don't know if the words were locked down, but he will have the humanoid bot hardware complete within 6 months. This was in
Right.
January.
Hmm.
And then now the funding allows them to ramp up their timeline for commercial deployment. It's going to be used
Hmm.
for manufacturing, deploying more robots, and the AI training, expanding engineering, commercial deployment. And they've got a partnership with BMW, but he
Yes.
said that, like it still is still a year or 2 years away, right? It's like 6 months for the bot, the handful of bots to get to closer to design
Hmm.
lock. Then they're going to create, um, you know, he didn't give us a number, but likely in the hundreds. But it needs to be put inside a BMW, factory. Find the useful work, that one task that it's going to do. Maybe it
Right.
is totes, maybe it's something else, and then they'll expand from there. Right? That's
Yes,
their
yes.
plan.
When they worked with BMW, it seems like they identified 5 different areas or kind of tasks they want to do, the low hanging fruit that's going on there. And they sort of mentioned some of it was going to be in the sorting, the picking, placement, and a little bit of the logistics that's in the back room, and then probably also something to do with sheet metal, which I suspect is going to be loading the sheet metal into the spot welding robots. Something we've talked about many times before. So that example that they were showing there is probably representative of what they're expecting to do down at BMW. And it looks like they may have copied it and have it at their location in Sunnyvale. And eventually they'll be going down there and doing it within BMW, probably, who knows, anytime soon. And then certainly they expect to start getting results by the end of the year. And then maybe, 12 to 24 months before that pilot project is completed. And what they're showing there looks a lot like what you'd expect in an automotive plant, just because the conveyor systems being fed is something that's pretty typical for being able to feed parts onto an assembly line. We do know there's another partner. We just don't know who that partner is, which is non-automotive. So they've got 2 pilots going on, and the other one, I think it was like more, it was either an area of retail or logistics, something like that. So it didn't quite look like the logistics example I was thinking of. However, the video we saw last night coming from Agility Robotics looks more like the retail space kind of application, where you had the pull shelves that the put shelves that things were being taken off of and being put onto a conveyor there. So my suspicion is what we're seeing is something what they're doing to get ready for the project they're having down in BMW. Again, just some very simple low hanging fruit, very easy task to do. But the main thing is being able to do the training, verifying that they have a methodology to start training these tasks. And is that robust enough? Is that working well? Is it something they can start to iterate on? So if that's not working, they're going to keep on perfecting that and not worry so much about the details of how the tasks look and what particular task it is. So if they can get that end-to-end kind of training done through demonstration learning and they're happy with that, then they'll probably start progressing a lot faster. And I think that's what you were seeing in there is like, the AI training was like the top of their list. You got to get that out of the way.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Scott. So basically, we've covered Figure officially announcing them raising $675 million, $2.6 billion valuation. More important is the partnership with OpenAI. They needed this with Microsoft and OpenAI. They've got their own AI team. And when we spoke to Brett, he said that we called our company Figure AI because it really is an AI company, and that's what matters more than the bot humanoid form factor. But OpenAI and Microsoft provides them the tools they need. They're creating these AI models. It's going to create the ability to learn. And many companies have now shown that autonomously being able to teach a bot to do autonomous work is not as hard as everybody initially thought. And they can certainly do useful tasks now. And it's a matter of just speeding it up. So here's the group of partners that we've figures has: OpenAI, Microsoft, Nvidia, which they absolutely needed, Bezos and Expedition, Jeff Bezos, Parkway, and Intel Capital. Thank you so much, Scott. That was great. I appreciate you covering this with me today.
Yeah, thank you, Herbert. It was a pleasure. And again, we weren't completely surprised about what was announced and that it was being announced today because Brett had telegraphed that a little bit last night. He said something about big news coming in the morning. So now we know what that big news is. And it was the announcement of this round actually being officially done.
So every single week, we've had breaking news from a number of different bot companies. They're all trying to outdo each other. So follow this channel, watch this series I'm doing with Dr. Scott Walter. We will cover every single one of these. Talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.
Okay, thank you, Herbert. Yep.
I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.